After multiple takes and multiple tries, we're back on recording this again.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's there is that in that scene there's the vulnerability on them.
Yeah,
They put their guard down.
and we've talked about vulnerability. Shout out to Brene Brown. Like with vulnerability comes courage. If
Mhm.
you're not ready to be vulnerable, courage is not going to show up. I just needed to collect my thought. No, I was just lashing out. I was just really, really angry. So, so yeah, there is an eye contact, and then there is the, okay, I'm gonna keep my eyes away from you so that you can take your own time to come and understand that we both are real in this whole world.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It goes like it broadens our view on the fact that okay, this is also how you can approach something that is unknown. So, hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to In Conversations with R&B. I am Rabri,
And I am Bruno.
and we are back with episode 9, segment 3. Uh, After many tries, many tries, we are back, and this episode we're talking about.
How to Train Your Dragon live action. If you haven't watched the movie yet, I would suggest you to not watch this episode unless you want to get some spoilers. Although, if you have watched the animation, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's the same story. Uh, but the live action was way better than the animation, I would say.
I have not watched the animation movie,
Yeah, I know.
so yeah,
You can compare, but I can compare, and then I'll tell you it's really good. You guys should watch it.
true.
Yeah. So, talking about how to train your dragon, though.
Let's dive right into it.
Yeah. So again, we're discussing about uh, the live action movie of How to Train Your Dragon, and I thought we could start first about how the dragons represent the fear of the unknown in the movie. At least that's what we came up with, and how also the Viking culture, for example, represents that social conditioning, the inherited bias that dragons are dangerous and they should be feared, right? And they should be killed and all of that. So, what did you think about that in the movie?
Dragons come and take their sheep,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when somebody is taking away your food, you're automatically going to have that idea that they're dangerous.
Yeah.
But now the point comes, again, this is Hiccup's point too. Like, why are we not sharing food, right? Like, they also need food, which is a great point. But because they're more bigger and they flame out things out of their mouth, um, they are considered dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And with danger comes the whole idea of fear.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. I don't remember if we've talked about this in previous videos, but fear is that idea that somebody puts inside of your head. And when you keep that idea going on and on and on and on for generations, it becomes a radical fear, like the masses fear it. So the idea of unknown is always scary because you have no idea where this is going to lead to, or how are we going to deal with it, or how is that going to play out, which also comes back to the idea of anxiety. Because what is anxiety? Anxiety is the fear of future, right? When you keep on thinking what tomorrow is going to bring, you start getting anxious because you don't know. And on the same contradictory thing is if you keep repeating the old patterns in your life and keep thinking about the past, what is that going to lead to? Depression. So,
because you're ruminating. Yeah.
Right, you're going back on the same note. Oh, I wish I would have done that. Oh, I wish I would have done that. But what is gone, and what is coming, you don't know. So when we've also talked about this in previous videos, what is happening is all happening in the now. So my knowing or my knowledge is that fear does not exist because it's an idea that somebody puts inside of your head. And once you overcome whatever that is you fear, is when you evolve as a human being. So dragons representing fear is very much that representation of the idea that has been installed inside of us. Also going back to the mythological stories, now is the time that we know dragons do not exist. At some point, those stories were made and they were exaggerated to the point that it became fear.
Yes.
Dragons represented fear of unknown to the humans, which were the Vikings at the time. But also going back to episode 2, we've talked about this again, like fear is put inside of kids so that they don't go in harm's ways. Our light just cut off again. But that's your light, my light is mine. Alright.
So one other thing that is interesting to note is like how Hiccup's gentleness is seen as a weakness at the beginning, but then later on it's his, I don't know, strength.
The idea of like his weakness becoming his strength is also through the different characters that he has in the movie. Like Astrid, for example, is the representation of confidence and discipline and strength, right? Because she's that one female who has a goal, right? And she's like, this is what I want, and blah, 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 blah. I love it. She's so gorgeous. Anyways, that's not the point. But that's the complementary behavior. Like, you know, you share that behaviors with one another. You as an individual have your own powers, the other person has their own powers, and together you come and you sit and you complement each other and you help each other grow. That is on to the point that I want to talk about in the rest of this video. Is, I think we've talked about this before, it's a spiritual partnership, right? It's a relationship between two people who help each other grow to a point where they evolve as human beings, right? And it's not just because like the old idea of partnership would be, I'm not saying that this does not exist in today's world, of course it does, but what I'm trying to get at is like the new idea of a relationship between two people is not just to be, oh hey, what do you have to bring on the table? It's more or less, how do we help each other grow into the human beings that, quote unquote, the new world is going to see? I would like to think that, at least, right?
What makes you think that way?
We're sitting here and there's not just a conversation going on. We're also sharing a bubble here. That's the same way when we work with people who are under needs per se, right? Emotional needs, spiritual needs, anything, intellect, right? Your intellect is that sharing of energy. It is in the matter, it is in things that are not matter, you know, it is in state of being. And what is state of being? Being is an act, being is an action that we have. So everything that we do requires energy. The car requires energy, we require energy. We require energy through food, right? So going back on the same point, like they are considered fearful because they steal their food. They also need energy, right? Dragons also need fuel to function, and we as human beings also need food to function. So how is it that we are sharing and coexisting in nature, right? So going back to seeing his weakness that turns out to be his strength later on, it is only possible because he is coexisting with all these different people in the dynamic, in the, what is it that they're doing? They're training to be dragon slayers, right?
Yeah.
So when they're training to be dragon slayers, it's that energy that is shared amongst all of them. Because you can feed off of one person. One person can cook for the entire freaking family. But if that person is cooking, the other person is also setting up the table. The other person is doing the dishes. The other person is bringing that food, right? The other person is, let's say, helping doing the prep work for the cooking.
So the team effort.
Yeah, so it's all of it is, we're living in an ecosystem where each individual helps another person.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about this just being me, myself, and I, yes, in the grand scheme of things, it's me, myself, and I, because you come alone and you die alone. But in order to exist too, you had other people around you to give you birth. Yes, we come alone, but we're not alone.
Well, we are social beings in the end, and we need to have that social aspect of things, because I think it's, although like we do have people that actually go, for example, and wanted to leave by themselves, you know, like go to the mountains, meditate, and then just like have their time of their life there. And they're okay with not having contact with other beings later on. But I feel like that takes a lot of strength to do that, and takes a lot of courage too, I would say. So, but I don't know how I would be, like I would not be able to function without having someone to bitch about it.
Yeah, you and I are really good at bitching about it,
Right.
for sure.
But yeah, so.
But yeah, when you say, his weakness, and again, what is weakness?
Well, I feel like the idea of weakness is something. If we go back to that idea before when we were talking, what is normal, what is not
What is
normal,
normal?
right? Then the weakness is like, for some people, they would see something as a weakness because other people might be better at that than the person that is qualified as weakness,
Yeah.
right? And then vice versa kind of thing. So it's that, for example, his gentleness is seen as weakness into the Viking culture, because in their culture, a man should be powerful, courageous, and be strong, and deal with things in that way, I would say. And then not only on the Viking culture, but there is a lot of cultures out there, and I would say there's part of our culture that believes on that idea that the man should be this masculine figure all the time, and we are seen as weak when we demonstrate emotion, when we cry about something, and when we have that part of ourselves coming out, right? So we can, like, people can see that as a weakness, but I see that part of vulnerability as something to be courageous about it, like coming out and showing your emotions. It's something that most people don't actually come to terms of dealing with it, so they don't want to, because they also fear that they're gonna be misjudged and they're gonna be hurt as well, so they build those walls to protect them.
See, walls are built to protect ourselves, yes. But until unless you don't make a door on that wall, you're going to be left alone.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole idea of, I just want to be by myself and everything. And which is fine too. I'm not against the idea that, okay, you want to be by yourself, that's totally okay. But like you said, it requires a lot of strength, right? And in order to know that you have that kind of strength, you also need to experience that before, right? And experience it, understand from it, and go ahead with that. Also, coming back to the idea of vulnerability and being courageous, it is hand in hand. I think Hiccup is a really good representation of like how he can be vulnerable with the dragons, and that can bring more companionship to the mix, and that can help the Vikings grow into a better community per se.
Okay.
Hiccup brings that trust from the human side, that you can trust us to be your companion by being vulnerable with Toothless. And Toothless, being the night fury that it is, brings that confidence inside of
Hiccup.
And it is only possible because he allowed himself to be seen like that. Like, he initially, his thought is obviously, I'm going to catch it, right? And he does catch the dragon, and he goes near it, and then he's also frightful of it because he's like, God damn, I've never seen something like that. But during that realization, he also sees that they're also, is it recording? In that realization, he also sees that they are also hunting for food. That is where that idea of coexistence comes in. That we can all coexist in the same ecosystem without harming one another. If I want food, so do they. And yes, they wouldn't have to steal our sheep, steal our cattle, if we just share food with them. End of the movie, we see they're always going to the great mom and mom dragon and all of that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The relationship between Hiccup and Stoic is that of a father and a son. But in that entire mix, Hiccup teaches Stoic how to reparent. What does that mean? We've seen Stoic throughout the movie being this marvelous leader who's like, no, we gotta kill these dragons. And Hiccup teaches him that, hey, we can work this with compassion. We can work with dragons instead of working against them. Like, why would you... First of all, why would you want to go against something that is, quote unquote, more powerful than you?
Because humans don't think that they are that powerful. They think we are on the top of the quote
Food
unquote.
chain.
Yes. But it's interesting that most people would think like, oh yes, we're humans are top of the food chain because we have all that technology and blah blah blah. You go across the street to the supermarket to buy your meat. You don't go hunting. Like, where are you on the top of the chain?
That also comes with the idea of patriarchy, right? Like, men thinking we're superior than women.
Yes.
That also opens a wide gate on pay disparity. That opens a wide gate on, I've often heard people say that men are threatened by women who are more powerful than them.
Of course. Because the thing is with that, I would say, like being a man myself, I feel like a man would feel threatened because maybe they were taught that when growing up, you gotta be the provider for the woman kind of thing, you know, like you gotta be that strong person, blah, blah, blah. That idea of masculinity that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if the woman is earning more than him, so then how he can be the one providing for the family per se? On that sense, you know what I mean? That's why they feel threatened. But it can also be because of their ego too, you know, like the woman cannot earn more than me, you know, like I can do way more things like that. Bullshit idea too, which could be the case.
But on the same hand, if you are quote unquote the provider of the house,
Mm-hmm.
then also learn to earn that bread and not put all that load on the women, because like housemaking is a difficult job.
Well, of course, and it's an unpaid job.
It's an unpaid job.
Yeah, it's an unpaid job. But if you think about with that in mind, is like, for example, the education system.
Mm-hmm.
It's set up to have workers and not thinkers.
True.
Right? And on top of that, they want women to be at home, like breathing pretty much like kids. Right? And then why is that? Because if the woman is actually giving birth to other kids, then we can still continue with that cycle system of like manufacturing workers per se.
So are you telling me it's on an industrial scam?
Yeah, definitely. There is like a plausibility. There's a plausibility to that idea for sure. That's why like women are underpaid. You know, there are a bunch of places in this world that they don't have the support from the society that they live in a sense like financial support, and then other supports as well that can put them back into the workforce.
Also going back on that, it's also it infuriates me. Okay, it makes me so angry, like so angry, that when somebody who is going back to the talking of like fear of unknown, right? When somebody is used to working in their way and they enter a system where people are working in a different way, if the other people don't understand how this person is working, it's a no-show. Like, no thank you, we're not gonna do this. Bro, you have no idea what they bring, how they bring it, and why they bring it. Like, at least give these people a chance to show you how it's done, right? That's where the idea of spiritual partnership comes. Like, if you're not even I'm calm. If somebody does not give something in return, then they're of no use to you, is my point, right? That is the whole idea of old consciousness, quote unquote.
Like, you mean like trading? So like, I do something for you and you do something for me. If you don't do something for me, then there's no relationship here. Might as well look somewhere else.
And I don't know, but that's not how human beings evolve. And if you really does not want to, if one does not want to evolve, then I am sorry, but you're doing such unjust to your entire being. Like, if you're not ready to change the system for what it is, what I mean by changing the system is how we've worked throughout our entire history. Like, I was reading this the other day. We have come par all of our history at this point, and we are in a generation where people are breaking cycles. And some people want to remain in that cycle. And if you want to remain in that cycle, you're going to remain in a jail. And do you really want to make your life a jail? Yes, you're going to suffer, but do you really? Is that the kind of suffering that you've chosen upon? Where is the exploration of it? I'm not talking about space exploration. I'm talking about exploring your own psyche. And when people are not we have this thing in therapeutic language calling Q-tip, quit taking it personally. They preach that everywhere. Quit taking it personally, quit taking it personally. But when the other person is always taking it personally, how on the person on the receiving end is not supposed to take it personally? If it's a give and take, why is it that I'm always giving? Why can I not take in this particular scenario? And if I am taking, and if I take a little bit more, there is also a chance that I'm going to give you more than what I gave the other people. You're getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that lack of perspective comes in so much play when the person who is, let's say, on a different plane than the other one is, they're like the idea of fear, the idea of threat comes back again. Why is it that one person is like, oh no, you just have to give it to me? Bitch, that's not how the world works. The lady of fortune is blind. Go read some Shakespeare, go get your intellect in order.
So, Hiccup's dad story. He can be seen by some as being the bad guy because he can come up with the idea of being the bad guy because he expects Hiccup to do what he wants and being the son that he wants Hiccup to be. And if he's not that, then he's like, you're not going to be who you are, pretty much. And like, for example, when there's that scene where they capture Toothless, even though he's asking not to do that, and then they take Toothless to find the dragon's nest, right? So he can be seen as the bad guy, but the problem with that is because Hiccup's dad has that old mentality of how things should be done. He has that social conditioning passed on to him since before. And then Hiccup is that new generation.
That is breaking cycles.
Yes, that is changing that, right? So, but
on that, people are so afraid of change. That is also where the fear comes in.
Yes.
And again, talking about fear, it is that idea somebody puts inside of your head. Like, you're fearing change because you don't know it. But if you come par with it, then why would it even exist?
sorry, what do you mean by that?
If you see the change, then there is nothing to fear.
Well, the thing with change and fear is that also because people get accustomed to doing things that they were doing before, and then our brains are all the time cutting corners and make it the process easy and more efficient and losing less energy. That's the idea, right?
If you're
That's why we come up. That's why we
you
come up
can't-
with schemas, for example, right? That's how schemas are made. It's because we want to spend less energy into something that we already have a schema for it. If we don't have a schema for it, then our brain needs to work on that way more and use more of their what's it called, quote unquote fuel, you would say. It's like the same, for example, it's like the same right now in this generation that we're living. ChatGPT and all of the other AIs that we can use, that yes, it makes us more efficient in things, but with that it makes us what do you say, like makes us less and less intellectual, intelligent. I don't know what's the word that I'm actually looking for.
Ingenuine.
Not ingenuine, but it makes us more dumb.
Lazy.
Yeah, and lazy too. Dumb and lazy.
But okay, you use AI and all of that to your advantage to
Yes.
have your research done per se. But even in order to do your research, you need to know what questions to ask.
Yeah, like putting the prompts in there, but even the prompts, you can find out how you do the prompts like from other places too. But the idea is that like
But in order to do that too, you have to work, right? And
Yeah.
you would not know how to work that way if you have not done that before.
yeah, no, but the thing, okay, so at the beginning you're working on that. But as soon as you learn that, then you're using that. And then again, it's that idea of the brain is that I'm more efficient this way, I'm spending less energy, but I'm getting myself dumb in that sense because you're not working your mind. And then if we change a little bit, it's gonna be uncomfortable because it's change, right? It's that changing that people
So
don't
the
like.
only thing I understood from entire thing is that once we get comfortable with it,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to change it.
Yes, we don't. Once you get comfortable with something, why
But
do you
how
want
are
to change
you
it?
going to evolve if you're not going to change? Is my point.
But the thing is, like, do people want to evolve? Does everyone want to evolve?
Oh my god. Do they not?
I don't think so.
I'm
And then-
sorry, that's a wrong mix then.
Okay, then going back to the question of evolving, then, if you're thinking of it that way, what evolving means to you then?
Evolving to me,
Yes.
expanding your mind to a higher level of consciousness for sure.
Okay. All right.
For somebody who does not know what higher levels of consciousness is, go search up what table of consciousness is.
Stop.
Okay, when we're talking about table of consciousness per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are not aware of what consciousness even means.
Can you explain what does it mean?
It's a part of our psyche. In order to evolve, we have evolved as human beings in there's a guy named Gary Zukav, okay, again one of my favorite writers at this point. So he talks about 5 sensory human beings, right? What are our main 5 senses? Touch, smell, auditory, sight, which is the last one?
Taste.
Taste. So we're aware of all of these 5. But in order to experience life much fully, we have to evolve from all 5 in order to experience life in a multi-sensory way. What that also means is how self-aware you are, and when I talk about self-awareness, I'm like, are you aware of your psyche? Are you aware of yourself? And going back to Carl Jung's theory of self, you only evolve and transcend into this being. You're only able to end cycles is when you've encompassed all of that self-awareness into your psyche, right? Your past, present, future existing at the same time, your all five senses working at the same time. You know how sometimes we come across a perfume and it takes you right back to the memory, right? So like, who were you before the world told you this is who you are? Talking about table of consciousness, even if you search up what table of consciousness is, you're not able to reach the positive emotions until somebody teaches you how to get there. Okay, so you're never going to evolve as a human being until and unless you have somebody who has already evolved and is helping you reach there. So no matter how much research you do on transcending into a better human being or being the perfect human per se, you're not going to get there until you have somebody who's gone through it by themselves. And we often see this, like, people go back into the same idea of, no, it's me, myself, and I. Yes, it is an individual journey, but we all exist in an ecosystem, and if you think you're on top of the hierarchy, then are you really evolving? You're spiraling in the same area, man. You're not even spiraling up, you're not even spiraling down. Because whether you spiral up or spiral down, we're gonna reach the same answer. So you're not getting to the answer until somebody teaches you how to get to that point. And that goes back to the idea of spiritual partnership. It's a voluntary partnership between two or more people in order to reach a specific place, in order to reach a point in your life where you've evolved. And I will go back on the idea of scriptures. We talk about this idea of liberation. Liberation only comes when you encompass all of that multi-sensory inside of you, because it's as within and as out, as without, right? As above, so below. As above, so below is the idea of like spiraling up. As below is the idea of spiraling down. As within is that idea of you are the creator of your reality, and as without is the idea of ego. Like, if you think it is all on the outside, all on the surface, then you won't be able to evolve as a person. And if you're not doing this as an evolutionary being, then I'm really, really sorry, but you have so wrong idea of what being is. Being is a verb, like we talked about. Parenting is a verb. Acting is a verb. It is a constant action. You cannot be if you're not evolving. Quoting Shakespeare, to be or not to be is the question, right? To be is to evolve, and to not be is to remain in that same cycle of unchanging the things that are around you. And when you're not changing the things that are around you, there's no growth. And if there is no growth, you're stuck in a cycle which will eventually start feeling like a prison. And the only time you need to be in a box is when you're dead. That's the end of my entire lecture there.
That would be the end of our episode. I am Rabreet.
And I am Bruno. And
Like, share, subscribe, comment down below which all movies you want us to do again.
fuck, she never lets me finish this shit.